Welcome back to another episode of Jets Class. We are so excited to have you with us as always. Happy New Year as well. I don't think there's any team that can't wait for this calendar to turn to a new year and start anew than the New York Jets after yet another dismal defeat, this one to the Buffalo Bills. But we're not going to focus too much on the negativity, too much on the past. We are steering this ship forward, and it is starting here on Jets Class like it does always with the takeoff. We can talk about the NFL draft, and we will. We can talk about the free agent signings that the Jets have to make, and we will. We will talk about the general manager they will eventually hire, who will make those decisions in the draft and those decisions in free agency. But ultimately, the number one priority for the Jets, and it became so clear after this loss to the Bills, it is finding the right head coach to put on their sideline, because I think the number one issue with this team right now, and simply turning the calendar isn't going to change it, it is a culture problem. It is a toxicity problem. It is that the losing plague has taken over this team, and you need the right man to change all of that. And the man that will, it will be your head coach. Maybe it is someone like Aaron Glenn. Maybe it is someone like Pete Carroll, Brian Flores, Mike Vrabel. I don't necessarily know, but the Jets need to make the right hire, because the number one problem with this team right now, they are accustomed to losing. They expect to lose. They need to refine the pride in themselves, and they will do that once they get the right coach. It is time now for 4 Downs, and it is presented by Monmouth University. Explore further at monmouth.edu/amplified. We're going to do things a little bit differently for this 4 Downs. We're going to turn our attention to 2025 and the future for the Jets. So let's start it right now with first down. The NFL draft. What should the Jets do there? That is the focus here on first down, and it's not going to be the popular take here. I don't ultimately think the Jets are going to be in a position to draft someone like Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, even after what happens this weekend. But one thing they should look at in the draft, it's a defensive lineman. I know the Jets have drafted defensive linemen year after year after year after year. I mean, heck, 2 of their last 3 first-round picks were defensive linemen, with Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald, and both those guys actually turned out pretty well, but they need some help on the interior of their defensive line. They desperately need to infuse that group with more talent. It can't just be Quinnen Williams. So in the draft, I think that's a pretty good place to go out there and find one. Trades. Is there anyone the Jets should trade? Absolutely not. Do not trade anyone. I know there's so much talk about Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner and Breece Hall. Will guys request trades? Will guys want to be back? I don't care what players want to leave. The Jets actually have a nucleus of talent that makes this job appealing to general managers, makes this job appealing to head coaches. Don't go and get rid of those players. And I do believe that if any general manager walks in the door and pitches a plan that involves the team moving on from a guy like Breece Hall, or moving on from a guy like Garrett Wilson or Sauce Gardner, Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald, any of these young, talented players, yeah, I don't think that person should be running things for the Jets. There is a player, though, I think the Jets should release after this year, and it is Michael Clemens. He is a very intimidating player. I think he's somebody that the Jets were hoping was going to develop into their John Franklin Myers, someone who could kick inside on passing downs, play outside on running downs, but it's not working. I mean, there are so many times each and every game where he is on the field where you're just scratching your head as to why he's out there and what is he doing. The latest example of that, just ridiculous penalty where he jumped on top of the pile after the whistle, drawing a 15-yard flag. It was a cool story. You take chances on players like this in the middle rounds of the draft. It didn't work out, and the Jets should absolutely move on from him after the year. We talked a little bit about this earlier in the show. The biggest problem for the Jets right now is their culture. So once they ultimately add their next head coach, the players that they should sign, they need to open their checkbook to bring in the guys that are going to help get that coach's message across. Those culture building guys, those winning guys, those players with a mentality that the Jets want everyone else in their locker room to adapt and find themselves. Those are the guys this offseason that they need to bring in. I'm not talking about people like T. Higgins or big name free agent signings, guys that are going to steal back page headlines. No, they need culture builders this offseason, and as many of them as their next coach believes they need.
We've spent a lot of time this year on Jets Class talking about Aaron Rodgers, what he's accomplished on the field. Is he going to be back? Won't he be back? If he's not going to be back, who's going to be the Jets quarterback? And I think that the way that this season has gone, there's been a little bit of an unorthodox option pop up for the Jets that I absolutely think they should explore. And that is Minnesota Vikings quarterback J.J. McCarthy. What Sam Darnold's done there in Minnesota, it's nothing short of spectacular. I don't know any way that Minnesota moves on from him. I don't look at this like a Daniel Jones situation like the Giants had, where it was, do we pay him, do we not pay him, do we franchise tag him, do we not franchise tag him? There's no comparing the two. I mean, Darnold is putting up MVP numbers. This isn't about being better than he's been. Literally, this guy looks like an MVP candidate. You need to stick with him. And when the Vikings do, that makes J.J. McCarthy available. Here's the thing about JJ. If he was in this year's quarterback class with Shedeur Sanders, with Cam Ward, with Jalen Milroe, JJ McCarthy is the unequivocal number one quarterback in this year's class. He would be that good. Yeah, there are still some questions and concerns with his game, but there's a heck of a lot more questions and concerns with Sanders' game and Ward's game and Milroe's game and Quinn Ewers' game if Quinn Ewers decides to come out. So if the Jets are sitting there, say, picking 8 or picking 9, depending on how things shake out this week 17, why not take that draft pick, trade it to the Vikings, get a legitimate first-round quarterback, and have your quarterback of the future? He doesn't have to start coming off that knee injury next year. The Jets can still run it back with Tyrod Taylor because he's going to be under contract. But it kind of gives them an opportunity to have the potential for their quarterback of the future, develop him, groom him, put him into a situation that's going to be pretty good because you've got Breece Hall, you've got Garrett Wilson, you've got some receivers and a heck of an offensive line as well. And then, yeah, have your quarterback, have your cake and eat it too. I like the options. So it's something that's kind of come up a little bit that maybe we didn't think about that is a pretty appealing one for New York.
Thank you guys so much for joining this episode of Jets Class. We enjoyed having you along for the ride so much. Hope you enjoyed the New Year celebration as well. If you want to catch all previous episodes of Jets Class, make sure you do across SNY's digital platforms. You can watch Season 1, you can watch Season 2 on SNY.TV, on Facebook, on X, or on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to SNY's digital channel so you can keep getting this content that us here at SNY are producing sent to you. If you want more of me and the Jets Pregame Live crew, you can find us on Jets Pregame Live before the Jets finally conclude this season against the Dolphins on Sunday. That's Jets Pregame Live on SNY. We'll see you there.